In a recent video, I walked up to random people on the street and asked them one question. Well, actually I had three, but the first question was, how would you define autism? And the comments on my channel about the video were all over the place. One person said, that was an unfair question. Someone else said, this was really difficult to watch. And wow, people know absolutely nothing about autism. Now in this video, I'm gonna break down the three responses that shocked me the most. From the one that made me think twice, to the one that made me bite my tongue so hard, to the one that actually gave me hope. And by the end, you'll understand why the language that we use about autism isn't just semantics. It's literally shaping whether autistic people get the respect, support, and opportunities that they deserve. For those of you who are new here, I'm Dr. Dana Johnson, an occupational therapist with a PhD in child mental health and development, and I help parents of complex autistic children understand what's really driving their child's challenges. For those of you who know me well, you know that I presume competence in every single one of my clients. And I believe that non-speaking autistic individuals with complex bodies understand the world around them, even though they can't always show that they understand it. So let's watch this first clip, and then I'm gonna tell you why I had to think twice about it.
So first of all, some autistic people I would describe as the lucky ones. To not have a clue what's going on in their society and be okay with what's at their immediate fingertips.
Okay, so he talks about how they're the lucky ones and that they have no clue about the world around them. Now, at first, I was taken aback by his comment and I was kind of sitting there like, what? What are you talking about? But then I realized what he was saying. And essentially, his assumption is that these individuals don't understand what's happening around them. And so they just live in their own little world. And that's way better because our world right now is so chaotic and so divided that they actually have it way better than we do. And I'm just like, okay, no, wait, pause. This is not true. My clients who I see, and I've worked with so many who have told me that they actually are very much aware and sometimes so aware of the world around them. And so this is false information. And so it just highlighted to me that we need to do better in terms of educating those around us about, even though they may not look like they're listening or that they understand, they do. Okay, so let's go into this second clip.
Sentence. Can I phone a friend? It's autism in a sentence. I don't know if it's the correct terminology, but mentally challenged is what I would consider, I guess.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of people on the spectrum, so not every situation is the same.
Okay, so yes, these two words were used a number of times when I asked people to define autism, and it was very hard to hear. I had to bite my tongue. However, to this man's credit, he really was apprehensive. He wanted to articulate what he felt, but didn't want to offend anyone. And because of how I felt in the interaction that I had with him, I appreciated his honesty, but it was still hard to hear. And it really left me thinking, again, that we are so far away from understanding autism and what it actually is. Now, for the next clip, I just want to say I loved talking with this group of women. They were Southern women, and initially they were a little apprehensive, but then once I got them talking, I think I spent 25 minutes with them. They were wonderful. And I think this clip was what really gave me hope, because it summed it up well in terms of the challenge of defining autism and also the lack of information and education that's out there.
I don't know. I think autism is still not unexplained, but I think there's still so much that we need to learn and bring awareness to with autism. I'm not quite sure that I have two sentences to describe.
Okay.
So yes, I do agree with her. I do feel that we need more public education and awareness about autism. But quite honestly, I think there is a much more urgent need in terms of educating doctors, psychologists, and therapists who are directly working with and diagnosing autistic individuals every single day. I think these old school ideas that are still out there are just so outdated. They're actually causing real harm to your kids and my clients, and they are the ones that have to endure this ignorance. And if only during the diagnosis appointment, or even if you have professionals you're working with on a regular basis, even if they talked about presuming competence, and even if the standardized assessments are saying that your child is intellectually disabled, just still presume competence in them, presume that they understand, speak directly to them. And then also talking to parents about their child, your child has a motor planning difficulty. And sometimes it might look like behavior. Sometimes it might look like non-compliance. But if only we could articulate these things to the parents early on, that could completely change the trajectory and the lives of the entire family. Okay, so what are the two things that really surprised me? Well, the first one was that essentially, after watching all the videos, I realized that we're defining autism through the lens of our own experience. Because for some, autism might look like a child who speaks fluently, but struggles socially or might get overwhelmed in certain environments. And typically, people talked about them as being highly intelligent. Now, for others, it looks like a child who is non-speaking with intense behavioral or impulsive responses. And often, they have significant sensory needs. So how can we then create a definition for something that vast, right? What about because it's so individualized to that person? Well, we can't. And the medical community as well is wrestling with some of this challenge. And here we are. And ultimately, autistic individuals are struggling to find support and they're struggling to be heard. So we need to find a better way to serve this community. So the second thing that I realized after I did all of these interviews is that I realize I live in an echo chamber because I spend my days immersed in this world, which I love, talking to families, which I love, and colleagues. I'm surrounded by people who get it. Now, you start to assume that everyone else in the broader population in the world also does, but that is not the case, and that brought me back to reality. Autism rates are rising, we all know that, but the understanding is not keeping up. The education is not keeping up. And so as a result, this gap is only getting wider. And if there's one thing that I hope you can take away from this video, it's that the way that we talk about autism really matters. The assumptions that we carry really, really matter. Every single day, a parent is being handed an outdated framework for understanding their child. And ultimately, that child deserves so much better. And that is why I continue to put out content and educate parents and professionals about autism. If this video made you think differently about autism, I encourage you to share it. Send it to a teacher, a doctor, or a family member, or anyone who works with or loves an autistic individual, because awareness without understanding is not enough anymore. And if you're a parent of a complex autistic child who feels like nobody really gets what you're dealing with, that's exactly who I made these videos for. So be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you know when I release new videos. I release them every single week. And I'd love to hear your comments, or actually, why don't you take a stab at defining what autism is? Share your comments here because I would love to get that discussion going. Now, what do we need to do in order to get to a point where no matter who you ask on the street or anyone in your world, they will be able to understand autism? Thank you, and I will see you on the next video.